Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of The Outdoor Chef. For dinner tonight, grilled chicken with homemade Mezcal BBQ sauce. Most people who spend a lot of time cooking on the grill at some point decide that regular off-the-shelf barbecue sauce just doesn't cut it anymore. And that's how I come up with this recipe. So when a long weekend come up, I decided to take Lexi and the Bronco to a nearby area I visited before to set up camp. A little farther down the way, after clearing a washout, we actually scared a black bear out of the woods and out onto the trail right in front of the Bronco.
Honey.
Before I could fire up the dash cam, he scurried off back into the bush. Lexi, being the friendly dog that she is, wanted us to get out and say hi. Well, maybe next time, Lexi. As it turned out, the only respectable area to set up camp was right near where we saw this bear, and this was to have some consequences for us later on our stay. With the dog settled in, it was time to set up. First thing we want to do is get started with the Mezcal BBQ sauce. The base for this and many barbecue sauces naturally is ketchup. Add a half a cup into the saucepan and a half a cup of your favorite lager. Next, we want to add a third a cup of fresh squeezed orange juice. This helps give the sauce a more sweet, tangy quality. And of course, a Mezcal barbecue sauce needs some mezcal. For our sauce, 1/4 cup. Next, add a tablespoon of your favorite hot sauce. Today I went with a peri-peri sauce. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar goes in a saucepan with a teaspoon of garlic powder. Next, we're going to add about a teaspoon of black pepper, freshly ground if you have the means. Whisk together all the ingredients over the stove on a light rolling boil to reduce and thicken. I check it with a wooden spoon to test the consistency, not too runny and not too thick. While we let the barbecue sauce stand, it's time to get a fire going. With all this hard work so far, you're probably ready to pour a pint of that lager of yours before we prep the chicken. My meat of choice today is bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, but this recipe also goes well with chicken breasts if you prefer. Before we add the dry rub to the meat, we want to give it a generous coat of olive oil. The real complement to the Mezcal barbecue sauce is a seasoning called Tajin Clasico, a citrusy chili pepper blend that works well with the Mezcal. Give the chicken a healthy shake of the seasoning. Optionally, you could sprinkle over some dark brown sugar as well, which will give a beautiful caramelized sweetness over the grill. For me, this past summer, I was doing a ketovore diet, so it was just the chicken, no carbs, no sugar, no side dish. Once you burn down to a nice bed of embers, it's ready for the chicken. Of course, I also prefer to have some flame on my grill as well to give the meat a little blackening. Once you turn the chicken over, start basting it with a generous coating of your barbecue sauce. You definitely want to get that heat into it and get it caramelizing. Once I get a good char on the meat, I'll slather it in more barbecue sauce, then wrap it tightly in foil and finish it off over the grill that way to help preserve the juices and tenderness. Once cooked through, you're ready to serve. Just look at that sweet, glistening meatiness. And that barbecue sauce. What a punch. Absolutely delicious. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we ended up pitching camp right near the same area we spotted that bear. So while cleaning up after dinner, I caught the same bear standing at the edge of the clearing, checking out the goings-on at camp, before once again scurrying off into the bush. Well, for Lexi, it was definitely early to bed for her, and honestly, I wasn't that far behind. Instead of spending the long weekend here, unfortunately our stay turned into just a one-nighter. There's no sense in tempting fate. We didn't hear any large visitors overnight, but common sense prevailed. It just wasn't worth sticking around, particularly with a dog at camp. But while we were packing up, we had a visitor of a different kind show up and investigate our camp. This one, not quite as intimidating.